You have such a spooky voice. Is that the computer that does that?
Reassure you.
Like that, was that 2001, that movie?
Yeah.
It's kind of a scary movie. How? Yeah.
Like within a year, probably I start looking to, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, let's.
Wish to speak, please either raise your hand, speak up, or get our attention. Is there anyone from the public that cares to comment on items not on the agenda?
Somebody just said they couldn't hear us. I think that's probably their audio system.
That's better.
Okay, Mindy, are we good then? Nobody's making noise? Is anyone on the online that would like to speak on items not on the agenda? This is your chance. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, the consent calendar.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Do we need a roll call vote still? Yes.
On everything? Why?
Because we're hybrid.
Oh. Okay, for the hybrid meetings we do. Okay.
Commissioner Newman.
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman.
Yes.
Commissioner Marks.
Yes.
Commissioner Higgins.
Yes.
And Commissioner Dale.
Yes. So we passed consent calendar, moving on to communications, reports, and correspondence. Mr. Executive Director.
Yes, we'll.
That was a quick report.
So tomorrow we're having a site tour with Assemblymember Woods, where we're going to take a look at the fiber optic cable landing. And I believe Commissioner Marks and President Coleman are going to join us on that tour tomorrow afternoon. I'm sorry, Commissioner Marks and President Dale. I apologize.
I know we look a lot alike, Stephen.
We do. Well, we're interchangeable.
And so we're meeting tomorrow. We're basically going to go to the cable landing site, which is at the approximately where the 1 million gallon water district tank is. And then Chris and Rob are going to go up to the top of the landfill because you can drive up there because there's a good view of the overarching Samoa Peninsula, the Pacific Ocean, and our projects. And so that's taking place tomorrow afternoon. And so then this afternoon, I signed the Spartan Eradication Grant that from Caltrans, which is $6,734,000. And again, the district will get $774,000 over the next 7 years as part of that. They're going to give us a initial deposit of 1.3 million to help with the cash flow. And then that's going to 230,000 is going to go to the Wiyot tribe for tribal monitoring. And then the remaining 5.7 million will go to RCAA to actually implement the project. And so that should get started here. And I expect to get Caltrans signatures sometime early part of next week so we can get this moving. On the staffing, there's some staffing changes that has been happening. Brittany resigned because she has a new baby and decided to stay home. And so we have a new office assistant that starts on Monday. Her name is Amber Sheehan. And so if you come in, you'll see her. We're really fortunate to have her on the staff. And then you just approved in the consent calendar a contract for our new natural resource contract coordinator, Doug Sedato, and he's supposed to start on April the 4th. So we're really excited to get those two staff on board. And we currently have advertised for a maintenance worker one in the maintenance department, and that we have some candidates and we're planning to interview those soon. So we're hoping to get that position filled. That will really help with some of the staffing issues that we've had in the past. Oh, I'm sorry. It's there was one agenda. Where is it in open session? Oh, I apologize. I apologize. We didn't make the contract in time. And so we might do a request that we do a special meeting sometime this month in order to approve that contract. I apologize. I missed the deadline to meet the Brown Act. And so we could not put that on the agenda. Thank you.
You just out of hot water over there.
You did. Thank you. And so the 4 of our staff attended the required county hazardous materials training that was part of the settlement agreement. And so we've completely completed all the training, and all of the hazardous waste has been removed from RMT2. And so we're checking off almost everything on the list is checked off at this point. There's still, I believe, a couple of items. And then we have 2 staff that are scheduled to go to emergency responder training. That's at the new training center that the Blue Lake Rancheria has. And so we're excited to get some of these training opportunities to make sure that our staff are trained, in particular on hazardous materials, because it's a high risk issue and we need to make sure the staff is trained. The fireboat's annual maintenance is completed and it's supposed to come back in the water on Monday. There's a harbor safety committee that's going to be meeting on next week. I believe it's 3/17. And Green Diamond chip export facility has a ship that's arriving today. It should be coming into port soon, I believe. No, I believe it's supposed to come in today. If not, sometime in the next couple of days, we will have a ship in port. And then the Army Corps of Engineers dredge schedule. Again, there's the bar and entrance, which they're scheduled to remove approximately 1.2 million cubic yards, and that should be in the June, July. The area that's kind of in black there is for the bar and entrance. And then the inner channel with the Uquina is tentatively scheduled for around April, May time period. And that would remove approximately 150,000 cubic yards from the inner channel. So those are all scheduled. On Monday, we're planning to submit round 2 of the ARA funding that the State Lands Commission has available for ports. We had previously received approximately $571,000, and we preliminarily calculate that we're eligible for an additional $300,000 that we're hoping to get from those funds that we can help. And so we're submitting that grant on Monday. And then within the state of California's, the governor's draft budget, there's $45 million that's currently outlined for ports. And that's similar to where the $11 million came from for the Port of Humboldt Bay last year. there's currently an additional 45 million that they're putting in specifically to assist with the preparation of wind ports. And so we're actively working with Kappa and our other partners to try to get some of those funds. And then there's an additional 1.2 billion that's in the draft for port infrastructures. And the current plan is that 70% of that 1.2 billion would go to LA Long Beach to really deal with some of the shipping and congestion issues that they have specifically down there. And the remaining 30% of the 1.2 billion would be allocated to the rest of the ports. We are meeting, we had a meeting of the executive directors yesterday with of Kappa, the LA, Long Beach, San Francisco, Oakland, really all of the port executive directors were on the phone, and we were kind of trying to come up with a recommendation that we can give to have a unified position on the distribution. And so we're actively working on trying to get access to those funds so that we make sure that Humboldt Bay gets a portion of these fundings that are available. With the 1.2 billion, the way it's currently laid out is there'd be approximately 600,000 over a 2-year period, 600,000 this year, 600 million next year for the 1.2 billion. It's kind of hard for me to say 1.2 billion. It's kind of unpalatable for me. And so that's my report. I'll turn it over to Rob.
Can use this. Oh, maybe too fast. All right, so we're continuing to actively work on the Baywater intake permits in the Nordic EIR. The EIR comment period closed 2 weeks ago. So actively working on that, but that's going well. Also actively tracking the BOEM lease process for the Humboldt wind energy area. I went over this in detail last time. Everything seems to be on track and looking at a November timeline. Headwaters Grant, the district received a grant from the Headwaters funds a couple of years ago, and there were some problems with the way the language is written, and so that's been rectified. And so I think at the next meeting we'll give you a report, but we're freeing up that Headwaters fund that's been stuck for a while. And we're actively looking for other grant opportunities, including the PIDP round 2. Small lagoons, actively working with agencies and still trying to go with the same strategy I indicated to you before of having all of that buttoned up by the end of this calendar year, shooting for October actually, so that we can use that at the next dredging cycle. And that's it. For staff.
Good job, man.
Yep, thank you.
Keep all those balls in the air.
District council. I saw Mark's name on there. Does the district treasurer have a report?
Yeah, Mark, we've asked Mark because we're going to be dealing with the budget and a number of big dollar amount items. And so we've asked Mark Witzel to start coming to the meetings over the next few months. And so want to make sure that we're getting the best advice we can.
Perfect. Hi, Mark.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. And I thought I'll just give a real quick report of what I've been doing the last few months. Mainly early in the year, finishing up the audit and responding to audit questions. And that took a little longer than we were hoping it would. But then also working on the state controller's report, state lands commission, and doing the monthly reports. And I'll be working as needed on as the district works on getting the budget put together for next year. So I'll be available for that. And that's it for me. Thanks.
See you, man. So moving on to commissioner and committee reports. Commissioner Newman.
Well, I've got my boat hauled out for annual maintenance, and that's been.
You might want to push the mic towards you, Stephen. Get the mask on.
I've been working on my annual haul out for my boat, and I did manage to get down to the boatyard and Phil's Landing and take a look at the fireboat, and like I was getting ready to be back in service. Other than that, I really don't have much to report. I would like to have a meeting soon with the fishermen with our new committee, Commissioner Coleman. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you. And yeah, I look forward to setting up that first meeting of our new fishermen's subcommittee. And Yeah, not much else to report. Been busy with my day job. But once again, that time of year is rolling around. I'm going to be plunging into the bay for the Redwood Discovery Museum's Perilous Plunge. It's supposed to be in person this year as opposed to the last 2 years that were virtual. And it's going to be April 16th. And if you don't want to jump into the cold water of Humboldt Bay, but want to see a commissioner jump into Humboldt Bay, you can always go to the Redwood Discovery Museum's website and make a donation for any of the teams there.
Very good.
And that's all I have to report.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. But for somebody else though.
Yeah, very good. Good
Just a little
organization.
bit of shame.
Patrick? Sorry.
April 15th will be a little bit too soon before, after my hip surgery, which is going to be March 28th. So I'll pass this year, but I'm developing a penchant for cold water. And so it really wakes you up. I have been busy in the Eel River and just turned out a report that kind of characterized the creek I've been looking at in Laytonville, 10 Mile for the last couple of years. And, you know, the drought is taking its toll. So it's time that we really need to kind of rededicate to water conservation. And there's a lot of things we've done over 160 years that have lessened the amount of water that's stored in watersheds. And so we can use forest health to rebuild the hydrology of the watersheds. We can work together to conserve water, catch water from the sky, catch it in tanks, and forbear from summer use. That's the page out of the Mattole book. So we're going to try to do that in 10 Mile and the Eel. You know, it's a dispersed way to meet people's water needs. And it's really one of the only ways where there's more water that could, you know, kind of new water that can be developed. Because if you're doing mostly rainwater catchment, it's not diminishing runoff to any substantial degree. I went steelhead fishing for about a week, took a week off. I should write that on the calendar large. Even caught one, smoked it up. Humboldt County, just love it. And so life is good for me. I got a great winter garden going right now. I mean, I got spinach, I got lettuce, I got chard, I got kale. I just transplanted my strawberries. I'm wondering what month it is, but let me worry, you know, if it's sunny, get outside, get in it, go wild.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Marks.
I'm just waiting for Pat to heal up to get back on the softball field. And that hasn't happened yet, but actually been still
7 for 9 last time I played for him.
nice, yeah. But I've been participating on the Wind Energy Committee with President Dale, and we met with Executive Director Larry Otker and Director of Development Rob Holman with the President of the State Trades Building Trades Council, and we're able to have a good discussion about what's going on up here at Humboldt. We're out of the way, of course, of a lot of the bigger metropolitan areas that are also looking for wind energy projects. And it looks like we're on the forefront. Everybody wants to meet us. And so that's a good thing. And I'm looking forward to us being on the forefront and actually being the ones to lead this charge of wind energy. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that was an interesting meeting. The president of the Building Trades Council for the state of California was well, and same with the operating engineers, 3. Very interested in what we're doing and very supportive. And I think we all see eye to eye on labor and where it needs to go and what we need to do and what we need to do as a community to improve our labor efforts, to get more people to work here and trained and hiring from our community, not outside our community as much as possible. Anyways, that's it. Any correspondence?
No.
No correspondence? Nobody wants to talk to us or write us or anything? All right, unfinished business, there's none. So we're on to new business, item A. consider approval of a contract with the California Energy Commission to receive a $10,450,000 grant to repurpose the Redwood Marine Terminal to support offshore wind energy development.
So move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. I know Larry's dying to talk about this, so. Oh, Rob.
I'm gonna be quiet.
Okay, Rob, talk. Tell us what happened.
All right, should we do this? This presentation here for you. And it sounds like maybe this is more information than you need, but I'll give you the details here. So yesterday, the CEC, the California Energy Commission, approved this $10.45 million grant to the Harbor District to support offshore wind development. And they released a press release. So we release press releases, that's great, but when the state releases a press release, this is going to be in news all over the state, which is great. So, you know,
All over the country.
yeah, very likely this is going to be a big story. And we issued a press release as well. So we followed, we pushed the state's press release onto the local media. So the funds of that $10.4 to $10.5 million can be used for matching funds for federal grants, preliminary engineering, environmental permitting, construction, or other uses approved by the CEC. Primarily, the objective is to use these funds to match federal grants. So most federal grants require a 20% match. So if we bring $10 million to the table, then we're talking in the range of $50 to $60 million federal grant. But the challenge is that federal matches, if we expend these funds now prior to the acquisition of the grant, then it negates the ability of the district to utilize the funds expended or to use them as a match. So we're kind of caught in this position here. Our strategy is to preserve as much of the total grant amount to serve as a match. But we also have a conflicting strategy to get the project shovel ready with permits and engineering so that we can better qualify for those. So our strategy in collaboration with the CEC staff is for us to use $782,000 of the $10.4 million for permitting and preliminary engineering, and then retain $9.6 million to serve as a match for other grant funds. And that amount would qualify us for about $48.3 million in federal grants. Now, it could be that we're going to need to draw from that $9.6 million for engineering and permitting, but for the moment, our strategy is just to use that 782. So our staff recommendation is for you to authorize the executive director to sign the $10.45 million grant approved by the CEC yesterday.
Any other comments from the board?
Sounds like an offer we cannot refuse.
Let me see.
Congratulations.
Good
work.
Very much so. No more comments? Do you want to be the chair? Would you like to take over this position?
He's good.
Should we do this in mid?
Take some motion. So I'd like to, we've commented on, from the board. Anyone from the public wish to comment on our contract with the CEC to receive 10.5 or $10.45 million?
Can you see me? Hey, you can see me. Good to see all of you. John called, Humboldt Baykeeper. I just want to say congratulations. This is amazing. And just thinking back on all the crazy projects that have been proposed since Baykeeper was formed, all I can say is full steam ahead. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wish to comment on our grant approval?
That's gonna be a tough act to follow. Yeah, better be very enthused.
All right, seeing none. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
You do a roll call. But before you do that,
Oh, you got something to say now.
the moment can't pass without really thanking the governor's office, Karen Douglas from the California Energy Commission, and the entire California Energy Commission, because they really stood behind the Port of Humboldt, and we would not be in this position if they didn't believe that we could really pull this off. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank the board and the staff, because we're a small staff. We're a small staff, and we're doing everything that we can. And the subcommittee and the whole board has just been outstanding on this. And so I can't thank everyone enough for all this effort. So Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes, yes.
Commissioner Higgins,
Oh, yeah.
and President Dale.
Yes. And Larry, thanks for putting that in there, because that is absolutely true, what you just said. We owe a lot of people a lot of thanks for all their help. So item A is passed. Item B, consider approval of a contract with Moffett Nickel in the amount of $3,567,500 for design, permitting, and coordination services for the district's multipurpose terminal replacement project at Redwood Marine Terminal 1 and the navigation channels.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the board?
Do we have a staff report on this one?
If you'd like.
Oh, yeah. Richard's kicking me.
All right, let's make sure this is the right one. Yep, okay. Whoop, what happened?
Keep going.
That was a quick report.
Yeah, I
How
like
about
that.
that? Okay. So this past November, the district issued an RFQ seeking consultant to complete the permitting and preliminary engineering for the new purpose terminal at Redwood Marine Terminal 1, which is where the envisioned wind project is. And so this is a preliminary concept that was called for in the RFQ for the proposal for the consultants to design and permit this. Would look something like that. We hosted 3 optional site visits, tours of the subject site. We received 4 submittals by the due date. We're really fortunate for the 4 submittals. We got really great teams and we went through the whole RFQ process by district procedures and the procedures outlined in the RFQ. And the board's offshore wind subcommittee recommends award of the contract to the team primed by Moffett and Nickel. So Moffett Nickel's qualifications, they have unique experience and knowledge to complete the overall projects. They're currently serving as a consultant to multiple international firms that specialize in port terminal operations and multiple offshore wind development companies. They have standing relationships with a lot of the wind developer field. So that is really going to help us succeed because they'll bring those relationships to their team. They have standing relationships that allow the district to more easily gain the attention of wind development companies. They have environmental permitting and planning specialists that are well versed in the ecology and regulatory nuances of both Humboldt Bay and other coastal waters throughout California. And they have a lot of sub-consultants on their team that are based here in Humboldt County to provide local knowledge and expertise. So they were deemed to have the ideal combination of global and local experience, as well as strong background in design and permitting of ports and terminals. So here's a quick glance at the local team members on the left there, and then some of their other sub-consultants on the right. And the proposed approach, just a basic overview. Should I admit that?
Can you go back to the previous slide? I just didn't get a chance to read all the.
Here we go. Yep. So the plan is to have all the permits secured by May of 2024. And a strategic acceleration of permits for the environmental mitigation completed by May of 23, which is just 6 months after the completion of the BOEM lease process. Final construction scheduled for 27 and assembly of, effectively operation scheduled for 28. And we're looking at ways to accelerate these second two, but these first two are pretty fast. So how this whole project is to be funded is as outlined in your staff report, but I'll break this down just to make it simpler. So we've got the CEC grant that you just approved. The total amount there is 10.4 million. And we've got 782,000 allocated to the funding, to the permitting and design of this project, and then saving 9.6 million for match in the future. So then allocating money to this project for permitting and design, if we take that 782,000 down, so that allocation of CEC grant for permitting and design is there. Then we also have funds from the State Lands Commission, 576,000. So that totals to 1.3 million. So then looking at this contract that's before you tonight, if you take that 1.3 million, that's task order number 1. And then future task orders as funding becomes available at 2.2 million, so that the total contract amount would be 3.5 million for the Moffett Nickel contract. So we zoom in on that last part there. This is the first thing here, that the total contract amount is $3.567 million. And we are authorizing Moffett Nickel to spend up to $1.3 million under task order number 1. So even though the total contract is for 3 million, they can only spend up to this 1.3 million in the meantime, until additional funding becomes available and we issue future task orders. So if you pay attention to that 1, 2, 3 here, staff recommendation is 1, to approve the total contract amount, 2, to approve task order number 1, 3, authorize the executive director to issue additional task orders when money becomes available, and then 4, authorize the district attorney or the district council to make non-material amendments to the contract. And that's the staff
The
report.
motion obviously includes these particular details.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank Rob Hoagland through helping us through that process of interviewing the consultants and making sure that we were clear as a team exactly where we were going with that process.
Yeah, and this number is, it's big, but it's a gargantuan project. And, you know, our staff is dedicated but small. And so without external resources of this magnitude, we can't play the game. So it's a big number, but there's reason for that. They're uniquely qualified, and this would be, you'd be a fool to save money on consulting up front and then have them not get the permits. So that's kind of my 2 cents worth with a number that the public would look at and go, for studies. So where we live in, maybe.
And just to clarify, it's the permits, SEQA, NEPA, and 30% engineering design.
Yeah, and it's actually in defense of the process. This is a very significant endeavor and needs to be thoroughly examined. So it's you know, part of the game.
Thanks. And I just want to add, thank you for just being really clear, both to the board and to the public, on the funds and where the different pockets of funding are coming from. We occasionally hear from the public wondering like, how we're spending money. So I think being really clear and transparent up front is important. So I appreciate that.
I agree with all that and really appreciate the work.
So it's interesting. Next month we'll be back for the second funding task.
Task order number 2.
Task order number 2.
Hope so.
I can see that coming sooner rather than later, but it really is kind of an exciting time to start this project, to start the permitting, the engineering, the whole this. It's this is not the last time you're going to hear about it. I can guarantee that. So we're done with the board. Anybody from the public like to comment on our contract approval with Moffett Nickel.
Hello again. I'm not sure this is really appropriate for this agenda item, but I wanted to let you all know there's been a lot of discussions about community benefits agreement or community benefits package that could give RCEA a leg up in the lease process. And so people have been asking all kinds of groups like Baykeeper, what ideas do you have? And I just wanted to let you all know that one of the ideas that we came up with is the idea of another public fishing pier in Humboldt Bay, because there's only one. And as you probably are well aware, people can fish for free from a public fishing pier. And so this is, not only a great way to promote the bay and the fish in the bay and help, water-based recreation, but it's an equity issue too for people who either can't afford a fishing license or, they just want to go and catch whatever and not have to throw things back because they didn't get a license for that critter that day, And so anyway, there's some other ideas around like a waterfront park or other amenities for the Samoa Peninsula in particular that is going to be, most impacted by the development of this project. But I don't know where would be good for a fishing pier. I thought, I looked at a map and said, well, maybe on the north end of RMT where the map that you guys just showed has wetland mitigation area. I have no idea, but I do know people go to RMT1 to fish, even though it's not open to the public. Maybe there's a better place for it, but I just wanted to mention this now because you're going to be in the design and environmental permitting stages, and that, I don't know, maybe it could work in. It's something Baykeeper has talked about for more than 10 years, but I don't have to tell you how involved the permitting and the funding would be for a new public fishing pier in the bay, but maybe Fields Landing might be a good spot. I don't know. I'll leave the details to people who know more than I do, but just wanted to bring that up now and put that bug in your ear. So thanks.
Thanks, Jennifer. Anyone else from the public care to comment on our contract with Moffett Nickel? Seeing none, I will move on to a vote. Roll call.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Higgins,
Yes.
and President Dale.
Yes. Well done. That's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Been a lot of work to get to this point. A lot of work. Getting the funding in place, the project design, the RFP. Pretty exciting.
An impressive team.
Oh, yeah.
Now we
Yep.
can get started.
Yep. Yeah, and next week we'll see the second funding request.
Just keep dropping these cliffhangers here, huh?
Yeah, no, that's right. So item number C, consider adopting ordinance 20, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation and Conservation District relating to the prohibition of the storage and handling of coal and petroleum coke on district-owned property. I'm assuming you're going to put the letter up. The ordinance, sorry.
So, yes, the board had directed staff to prepare an ordinance. And so as part of that process, the district council, myself, and Commissioner Coleman met with a variety of different people in the community. We really looked at the County of Humboldt's ordinance as well as the city of Eureka and talked to some other parties that have been actively engaged in this. And based upon that, we're recommending that the board adopt ordinance 20. One point to note is that just the way that the order of the ordinances are laid out, it's not an amendment to the master plan. It's a standalone individual ordinance. And so with this, it would prohibit any Cole, on any property that is owned, leased by the Harbor District. And so with that, staff would recommend that you adopt ordinance 20 and consent to read it by title only.
I'll move to adopt ordinance 20 and consent to read by title only.
Second.
I was kind of looking forward to reading it. It's 17 pages of
Get your whereases on.
oh, my whereases, and there's some of this
We've
is,
come a long way.
we have come a long way.
Old King Cole was a merry old soul.
Yes, he
Merry old
was,
soul
Patrick.
was he.
There's a reason why.
And Cole is dead, baby. Leave it in the ground.
Any comments from the board?
I just say that, I agree that this is the right motion for protecting the health of the bay and moving us forward in a viable way for economic development.
I would have to say that I believe that this is a digression. And not my favorite fish species, a red herring. I don't really believe that there is any economic viability in this venture, and it makes me wonder whether or not there aren't some rich people or people with time on their hands that do nothing but sit back and try to mess with our heads. I mean, I don't understand where this could be a viable notion by any stretch. But I'm glad that it's not viable, and we backed off of this track way back. Somewhere between 2008 and 2014, we recognized that the north-south train was inviable because of the geology. And then we also studied the east-west rail, and that is actually even more challenging given the grade and the changes in geology going east-west. So unfortunately, railroad transportation is not in our future. Glorious past. Not my choice. I like to choose. But that's kind of the facts. And, they'd have to get magnetic air cars to go through the Eel River Gorge, because you got to cross 138 landslides that are from the ridge to the river. It's just like, that's like 138 Confusion Hill bridges. So, Rig, you should have reined me in a long time before this.
You're gonna get Steven started.
Yeah, I'd like to comment again. No, just really briefly, just want to say that, I appreciate what Pat said and just want to recognize that this ordinance has no bearing and nothing to do with railroads whatsoever.
That is correct.
Yeah.
There's,
Really on the handling and export of coal from,
there's a lot of, I'm sorry, Richard, would you like to speak first?
No, thank you.
Really?
I would like for us to move and vote on it,
Okay, I'm gonna say one thing. Is that okay?
as long as it's short.
Short, yeah. Well, when I read this, when I first read the letter, or the ordinance, I thought, great ordinance, but a lot of the stuff that's in here, you could say about the food we eat. Just wanted to add that too.
You've been eating coal?
No,
Cover
but
your breath.
the food we eat has a lot of the stuff in it too, just so you know. So I will entertain any comments from the public. Does anybody on the public, would they wish to speak on this? Please, Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Grace Stewart, the Marine Chair of the North Group of the Redwood Chapter of the Sierra Club. And we've brought this up to the Harbor Commission before, so I just want to say thanks so much for putting this on the agenda. And I really appreciate all of the concern that all of you have for our bay and its unique habitat. And I'm urging you to please adopt Ordinance 20 and say no to coal on Humboldt Bay. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robin. Anyone else care to speak on this item? Jennifer?
Of course, I have to say, thank you very much for putting this together. It's a huge relief, and it's very ironic that it's on the same agenda as the offshore wind terminal grant. We're just from the 19th century to the 21st century. So unfortunately, it is a fairly realistic threat. And if you want to talk about it sometime, we can do that, but we can also wait until the threat reveals itself. So hopefully that will never happen. But we really appreciate you putting this on the agenda and adopting it and strongly support it, and look forward to never having to work with you to defend it. Let's hope. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anyone else care to speak on this item? Seeing no one else, I think we take it back to a vote. And this one is a roll call, a real roll call. So we have a motion and a second to pass ordinance number 20, an ordinance of the Board of Commissioners of the Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation and Conservation District relating to the prohibition of the storage and handling of coal and petroleum coke on district-owned property. Is that adequate?
Good elocution.
So the Board of Commissioners of Humboldt Bay Harbor Recreation Conservation District do ordain as follows, and I won't read the rest.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Marks,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Higgins, Commissioner Dale.
Yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to step on you.
Petroleum coke is one of the worst flavors of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but they have space coke now. I saw it in the store the other day. I didn't to buy any of it, but. All right, moving on to item D. We're going to receive an update on the Samoa Peninsula Beautification Project and provide direction as necessary.
Yes, and so it's the budget time of year, and state law requires that the Harbor District draft a preliminary budget by June 15th, and then to transmit the final budget to the Board of Supervisors.
Well, we're talking about beauty, not budget. We're not on
I
budget.
apologize.
We're not on budget
I
yet.
apologize. I apologize.
You're ready for,
The budget can be beautiful,
It is beautiful.
but we don't have
Budget
a
is beautiful.
budget beautification project.
Okay, we're on item 11D, the Samoa Peninsula Beautification Project. And so really is, we had presented to the board that there was a Clean California grant application, and that we had submitted the grant application. And so we were awarded, along with our partner, Redwood Community Action Agency, $903,000, which was really a great project. And it's something that we've been working on for a long time, but it's great to get some funding. And that we can't thank RCAA enough for really coming to us, bringing this project for us, and really doing a lot of the heavy lifting on this project. Again, this is community partnerships where we're building partnerships and working together to kind of solve these problems in the area. And RCAA truly has stepped up to the plate, and we're going to continue to work with them on this project. And so some of the things that are going to be done on here are improvements, to Vance Avenue, having a whole host of K-rails, because there's a lot of like illegal parking along the side of the road. And then on the dune areas, people drive over the dunes and trying to get them to direct them onto authorized areas and really cut down on some of the vegetation problems, having regular cleanup days, then having waterfront trash abatements. I can't tell you how much trash we pick up on the side of the road, and that Chris and our maintenance staff and volunteers and a whole variety of other people do along the Samoa Peninsula to try to keep the bay and the sides of the road clean. In addition, there's a number of abandoned vehicles that people just leave on the Samoa Peninsula. And then we well know that there are vehicles people drive on the beach, and then they'll just abandon the vehicles on the beach. And it's really hard to get those vehicles off of the beach. You have to get heavy equipment out there, bring those in. It's expensive and it's a big ask. And historically, what's happened is there's been a core group of volunteers and really some true community partners in the construction industry and also the maritime industry that have just stepped up to the plate and covered the cost to do these. I mean, this has been really a volunteer effort, and most people don't really notice all the work that goes into keeping the Samoa Peninsula, really clean as it possibly can. And so our recommendation is to accept the staff report And then to, I believe there's a person from RCAA that's here, that we'd ask that if they are on the call to be able to say a couple of words. And then to provide any specific direction that you may want to give us. But we're anticipating that we're going to receive the contracts in the next couple of months. And we're really excited to get this project going. And lastly, I would say one of the projects that is not on there is there's a significant amount of funds that are going to go to the Manila Park to help with Manila Park improvements. And really, this is a Samoa Peninsula wide grant that is truly going to help the community. And we're really excited about this. And so Carla, are you here and available to say something?
I am here. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Carla and I am a planner at Redwood Community Action Agency. I helped with leading the grant writing on this Clean California grant, and I will be helping with this project over the next 2 years. This project, like Larry said, was funded for about $900,000, and it's going to be going through June 2024. And yeah, we have lots of projects coming. Like Larry said, we're really excited to be partnering together. And we were one of 105 applications that were awarded. And so we're very excited to be working on this project. And let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Carla. That was awesome. And RCA comes through so often for our, on so many different fronts. Any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah,
Imagine that.
I would like to see the ballpark renovated back to plain condition. And you might work on that with the Manila Community Service District.
The one in Manila?
Yeah, there's a field actually,
Right.
softball field in Manila at the park. It's just not, it's been in this use for a few years. I've actually used the field before for raising money for Manila.
Good comments.
I used to play baseball in Manila with the Haywan Barnstormers. And the reason we loved it was because we would bring all the big hitting teams there and the wind would be blowing in at 35 miles an hour. So they couldn't hit it very far. The other thing is that it's a sand base. And so we called it wash and wear. It could rain. And then if the wind blew, we could play that afternoon. But I want to sing the praises of RCAA. It's Natural Resource Division that provides us these services, and also the Spartina. It really is a unique construct. It's part of the kind of derivative of the Great Society. It's our human resource agency. They brought in tens of millions of dollars. It's probably pushing 100 by now. And they really are an essential part of the economic safety net. And then they're also a friend of the environment. And so the one thing is that I would definitely say to stay open, in open contact with the community as you do these things, because that's a lot of resources. A lot of people have expectations. It costs money, but it'll be more well received if you're fully scoping the community. So.
Oh, definitely. Definitely included funds for community outreach. And we have worked with the Peninsula Community Collaborative in the last like 4 or 5 years. So we definitely have worked with the community and know what they would like to see for for improvements on the peninsula, but we did include funds to continue that outreach. Unfortunately, there were no funds to improve the baseball fields, but I know that there are more park improvement grants out there like Prop 68, so that could be another opportunity there.
So you can say maybe the softball organization should apply for a grant to improve that field. Right?
So,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
thank you again, and I echo the great work that our CAA does, and looking forward to seeing the results of this project. And I guess to get minorly up on a soapbox, like with all the cleanup activities that go on, and I've participated in some, but I know like the staff at the Harbor District and volunteers do so many cleanup activities. I really hope that there's equal effort in enforcement activities, and I don't know if what all the problems are about actually issuing tickets for dumping or catching people who are dumping. And maybe getting some cameras out there, because we see it all over our rural roads throughout the county. People can't be bothered to go to the dump, and I don't know as an individual, but my suspicion and the public suspicion is that very rarely is anybody caught or prosecuted or ticketed for that. And you see the signs, for $1,000 fines for dumping, and it'd be nice to see an equal amount of effort put towards enforcing that. As you drive around with a broken tail light, you get pulled over, but it seems like you can dump your household waste on the side of the road. And not to be disparaging anybody in enforcement, and I might be completely off base there, but that's my minor little soapbox. But congratulations on this grant. I think it's great work, and happily we'll vote for it.
Any other comments from the board? So I also, one of the things I think, in my district, Shelter Cove is a gem that many of us know about and many of us may not be aware of. And if you haven't been to Manila, Samoa, and enjoyed that beach, the dunes, the area out there is right here in our backyard, and it's a gem. It's an actual, you don't get a whole lot of places like that in the world. And it is pretty special. So we need to take care of it. And Richard even lives there.
Yeah, well said.
So I have a motion and second. We've talked about it. We'll take it to the public.
Go ahead, Robin, you first.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I'm really excited that you're doing this. I agree that there's not any other place like this in the world, and the Samoa Peninsula is just a really special, unique place. And I'm so glad that you're doing this. And I was especially glad to see the native plant installation, the educational activities, and the litter abatement. So thanks so much for putting so much work and effort into this happening.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. Thank you so much to Carla and our CAA for putting the grant together. I was thrilled to see the press release that the Harbor District was getting this grant. Humboldt Baykeeper gets a lot of calls about things going on the peninsula. And so it's really great that there's going to be funding to be able to deal with a lot of these issues. So I look forward to seeing the work done.
Thank you, Jennifer. Robin, any other comments from the public? Seeing none? Do we need to vote on that?
It's just an
That's an
update,
update.
no action required.
No action required. So we didn't need a motion in a second. All right, we're moving on. Item E, consideration of initial 22-23 district budget preparation session.
Yes, I was so excited about this. I hope it is. And so like I was saying before.
Pardon me. There's a lot of feedback. We can't really hear. It's very weird sounding. I think you have two mics on, maybe.
Going back to the speaker. Okay, so June 15th is when we have to do a preliminary budget, and then August 1st is when we have to transmit the budget to the county board of supervisors. Those are kind of the statutory deadlines that we have to abide by. So historically, ever since I've been here, we have kind of set up a schedule, and we've kind of looked at this almost like a study session kind of a thing, where it gives us an opportunity to kind of focus in on the properties and then hone in one property at a time, as opposed to looking at an overall budget and then not really being able to focus in on an individual property and what is going on in each individual one. And so we're proposing to follow the same process again. And included in your staff report there is there's a slightly different schedule than this. And I just wanted to check to make sure you were reading these, but I changed this on this. And what we're proposing to do is to do Shelter Cove, Woodley Island, and Fields Landing Boatyard first. Because we think that we can put those together fairly rapidly, and then we need a little bit more time on RMT1 and RMT2 and the dredging. Those are a little bit more complicated. There's a lot of different things going on. And so I wanted to kind of change around the schedule a little bit so staff would have a little bit more time of working on these. And so we're proposing to, on April 14th, to do Shelter Cove, Woodley Island Marina, and Fields Landing Boatyard. And then on May 12th to do RMT1 and RMT2 and dredging, and also to review the fee schedule. And then to come back on June 9th, and that's when we would look at the port operations, conservation, administration, and the other programs. One thing with all these grant funds, I mean, we just approved 10.45 million. We just discussed, 900,000. I told you I signed the grant agreement for 6.7 million with the Spartan Eradication program. We typically have a budget of about 3.5 million. This is a significant amount of budget increases, and that's why staff has been really looking, and why we asked our accountant to be here, today, is that we really have to manage these funds correctly, and we really have to keep an eye on this, because this is a lot of funds. And sometimes you look at all that money and you think, oh, we're rich, we have all this money, but they are committed to specific projects, and we absolutely have to keep the bookkeeping. It's something that the board president had said early on, when we were starting it, looking at this new terminal project, is maintaining the accounting and maintaining the books and doing the proper reporting and all of those things is going to be absolutely critical in this process, because there's going to be a lot of eyes that are going to be looking when we're issuing these contracts. People are going to be watching these contracts and the audits and everything that we're going to have to do on these projects. We have to be on the straight and narrow. And so I want you to understand that this is something at the staff level that we're actively talking about and setting up the procedures and the programs. And so there might be a couple of different changes that you see in the budget that we're going to be recommending to put in some of these additional safeguards and just how we set up these processes. And we really want to start it out right, because it's so hard to go back and recreate things. We want to make sure that we're setting it up right and we have the account set up. And so you're likely going to see when we come together that, and I'm not saying this is 100%, but we're most likely going to consider merging RMT 1 and 2, and then creating a new terminal activity that would be just entirely on its own. Basically, the 168 acres, that would be its own the way we keep track of all the books. And so every fund that comes in on the new terminal project will most likely be identified just individually. In addition, in years past, we had a lot of activity on Shelter Cove, and so it really warranted its own activity or class. And so most likely what we're going to do now, because we really only have the contract, with the Shelter Cove Fishermen's Preservation and a couple of relatively small things, but is to really merge those with like our Park Street project, our down in King Salmon area and the Fisherman's Channel, really merging some of these smaller properties that we have, the Park Street property that we've acquired. And so there's probably a little bit of reorganization of the structure as the emphasis on the projects are kind of changing a little bit from what they were in the past, and really of how we're setting up and associating the budget. And so I don't want to dwell on this, but what I'm hoping that you will basically adopt this budget schedule, so that number one, we can notify the public that this is the schedule, and that and we'll try to stay on the schedule as much as we can, because in the past, this has been one of the issues, is the public has been keenly interested in our budget, and we want to have a schedule.
Hey, Karen Underwood from the Humboldt.
Follow our budget process. And so we're asking that the board basically establish this as the budget schedule for this 2022-23 cycle.
So moved.
Do we need a motion on this? This is just we're just recommending to the staff. on the schedule. Well, I think we're giving him guidance.
Okay, we don't need a motion.
So we don't need a motion. So, but you can talk about it if you like. I typically start on the other side. So Richard, maybe you would like to start.
No comment.
Patrick? No
It used to
comment?
be opaque, the discussions about the budget as the monolith. So I really like this disaggregating. So we look at all the different aspects of the business. And I think it's easier to follow and it's easier to follow for the public. So I am wholeheartedly in favor of this approach. And you were talking about, before we couldn't get grants, tide was out on natural resource grants. But then when you get a bunch of grants and you don't have staff and you're trying to keep up with soft money. So we're just super lucky that Spartina project allows us to get a natural resource director that can be the three-ring circus coordinator for all these grants. And then to have capable partners that are self-starters, organized, capable of delivering like RCAA, that's less daunting than if we had less seasoned partners. So I think we're looking pretty good in terms of having the ability to administer all these grants. And so I guess we'll be talking about that more. Huh? Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Patrick.
I was gonna say, in light of all that's going on, I think anything that makes it more clear and easier to follow through the position for.
Commissioner Coleman? Thumbs up. So I have one question for Mark, if Mark's still on here.
See if he's still awake. Has he gone out for pizza?
I'm here. No.
Hey, Mark, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no way of setting aside separate funds from our general fund to secure these monies. We have to keep track of it inside our own general fund. That's correct?
Yeah, inside the general fund, I mean, we can set sub accounts up and in QuickBooks, set up separate classes to track each one of them separately. And that's what we have done in the past with general categories. And there's a couple of different ways to track the funds. Yeah, I think it's going to be segregated so we can get individual reports, anytime we need.
Segregated with expense and with revenue. Is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only thing I had.
Okay.
Thank you, Larry, for that and for the schedule. I like the schedule. I agree with your changes. Good. So we've advised you on the budget schedule, future agenda items. Currently, I have Green Diamond Shared Services Agreement. Oh, I didn't. I did ask. Did I not?
That's Mark.
Non-budget.
I didn't. All right, would the public care to comment on our budget schedule?
Where's Ken Sawatsky when we need him?
Hey, he was on TV the other night. So we are moving on. No public comment, which is really, really strange. No public comment on our budget process. It's not been.
If it was ready, there'd be a lot more interest.
Green Diamond Shared Services Agreement and the dredge update are two things that we have on our agenda. And I'm assuming in the next couple of agendas, we'll see, or next couple of meetings, we'll see something about those.
We have the May 12th is when for the budget that we have the dredging on the schedule that we just adopted.
Okay.
And so we'll likely do a detailed report on dredging.
Well, that's kind of the heavy lifting item on that agenda. So if you could thump that a little bit, that's really important that we stay up to speed because it's a constant problem.
It's a big problem. Our biggest right now.
Yep. And I'd like to see, and I hate to beat this, that's dead fish, but just an update on the longfin snolt sampling. It's just how it's going, what they're seeing, that sort of stuff. Patrick? Agree? No, listen.
Maybe an update on our dredge.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'd love to hear an update on the dredge.
Our dredge.
Our dredge, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of the dredging. Yeah, and that we might need a meeting between now and then.
Okay.
All right,
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion, second, to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
So you need a roll call on that, all right? Thanks, guys.